Hello and welcome to class. It's week 2 of LDR 816. We're going to be looking at the assignments for this week. We have a discussion thread that we're going to be working with, as well as, well, not really a paper, but a beginning of a outline for a literature review. So let's get into it and see what we've got coming. Well, of course, we're going to be dealing with the week 2 assignments, and as I always say, you should look for announcements, and then we'll go to week 2. Now, week 2 has 2 assignments. There'll be a discussion thread, and then there'll be not really a paper, but a collection of abstracts that you'll be searching for. So the first thing I want to talk about is the discussion, and here we can use the readings from the course resources and start here, which gives you a good starting point, or you can go to the library and use the different databases that are available to search there. Many times I tell students to actually start their research with going to Google Scholar, which has a much larger database or access to information. Now, you may not be able to actually get to the article from Google Scholar, but you can certainly get an idea of whether there's only a few articles on a subject or there are thousands and thousands of articles on a subject. So the reading is going to be important. And then the topic we're going to be looking at is breaking down a particular theory that you chose from the first week, breaking it down into a particular streams of literature, and then identifying within that stream of literature the terms, the purpose of the study, and the conclusions. Okay, so we're kind of going from a broad theory down into a narrower and narrower stream of literature. Now, it may be useful to kind of look at this diagrammatically. So what you're going to do is go back to your week 1 selection from the article that you read, where you picked 2 different theories that you were going to look into and understand. Okay. Now, for this week, you're going to take one of those 2 theories. So, for example, you chose LMX theory and shared leadership theory. You're going to take one of those. Suppose you choose LMX theory. And you're going to work on that by starting to review the literature, both in the supplied in the course as well as going to the library. And I'll talk a little bit more about the importance of that also. And then in your literature review, you're going to be reading a variety of different articles, but you're going to select a study. So what is a study? Well, a study is actually where you go out and you collect, you have a hypothesis, and then you go out and collect data on that hypothesis to try to prove or disprove a particular point you're trying to make, to try to understand something. So there's a variety of papers. Not all of them will be studies. Not all of them will have actual data collected and hypothesis proved or disproved. But you want to select one that does have those features. And then within that study, you're going to pick 2 streams of literature. Sometimes there'll be more, but there should be, in each study, there should be at least 2 literature streams. And then from the broad streams of literature, you're going to follow through and select a narrow focus. And the whole point behind this is, generally, people think they're going to solve a big problem, and they start out very wide. And there's too many variables involved. There's too questionable definitions of things. So what you want to do is narrow it down. And so what you're going to be doing from these 2 streams of literature within this particular study, you're going to be following the stream of literature down to a narrow focus. And within that narrow focus, you're then going to identify and define the technical terms that are introduced in that study. And this is always going to be the case. Many times a term will be used in sort of a general fashion, and people will have their own interpretation of it. But in scholarly writing and in academic studies, the terms have to be very precisely defined as to how they're going to be used. And again, getting used to understanding these technical definitions and also including those in your own writings is an important process, an important skill to develop. And then finally, again, still we're within the discussion portion of the class, you're going to explain the purpose and the results of this particular study. So over the course of the week, you'll be selecting a study from the theory, one of the theories that you chose in week 1. You're going to be looking for the streams of literature within that study. You're going to be narrowing down the streams of literature, defining the technical terms that the authors have included, and then explaining what the purpose and the results of the study were. This should give you kind of a soup to nuts sort of approach to how you conduct a research study. This would be very typical to what you would do for a dissertation. Now, the writing assignment again is related to the literature. Here you're going to be taking one of the streams of literature that you identified for your discussion. Remember, you found a study, you found 2 streams of literature. You're going to find one of those streams, and then again you're going to focus in, you're going to drill down on it, and you're going to look for 20 to 25 journal articles related to that particular topic, okay, in that stream of literature. Now, you don't have to write them up. Here, all we're going to be doing is taking the abstracts, which are always fairly easy to find, and you're going to be copying those and then pasting them into a Word document. And then as the final part of this exercise, you're going to start organizing them. Which things would come first? Where would you start? Okay, how would you build upon those? You could think of in terms of putting them into an outline and where these abstracts, where these different articles would hang off that outline. This does not need to be in a paper type of format. Basically, you're just going to turn in a list of abstracts, but that you've organized into some sort of a meaningful fashion as to how you would approach the literature review. And this is going to be important because this is going to continue through the class as you continue to develop this into an actual literature review. So, the keys to success. You'll find that you won't find all the articles that you're interested in, or the best articles, using a single searching technique. You may have to use different keywords, you may have to use different approaches, use different databases, and you should become familiar with all these different methods that are available. Generally, I recommend starting out with Google Scholar to give you an idea about the breadth and variety of the research on a particular topic. So when you start going into the Kaiser database in their library, you have an idea, am I seeing a lot of what's available, or am I seeing a fairly small amount of what's available? And then you may have to come up with alternative searching methods. Okay, so develop your research techniques. When you take a particular article and you look at the reference list that the authors used to build their article, you're basically looking at the history of the article. What was the literature stream that this particular article was built upon? So you can go and reference those particular articles and look. That's sort of the foundation and the building blocks to a particular point. And then when you look for citations, if you go into Google Scholar and you pick a particular article, you'll see cited as a blue link. And if you click on that, it'll show you all the work, books, and articles that used this particular article in their work. So in a sense, you're kind of moving forward in the literature stream and seeing where the research has gone since this particular article was published. Remember to use the best quality ingredients. The top journals within a particular field are generally considered the gold standard. As you move into lesser journals, again, the quality is diminishing. When you move into peer-reviewed non-peer-reviewed journals, that's less quality. And when you go into different fields, the value of those particular articles is diminished. So, for example, if you're working in leadership and generally you're taking articles from management field and social psychology, applied psychology, where people write about leadership and journals publish about leadership on a regular fashion, and if you pull in something, say, from engineering that discusses leadership, well, people would say, well, why are you using an engineering article to talk about leadership? Unless there's something particularly unique in that approach. Okay, so the idea is you stay generally within the research, the literature within a particular field. And then finally, keep track of the work you're doing. Everything you're doing in terms of searching in the library, finding articles, reading abstracts, all is important and is building up your, not only your knowledge, but also the as a resource to use in future work. You never know when a particular reference will be very useful in something that you're working on. So write it down, whether you use Excel or you use index cards or you use whatever technology you feel comfortable with. Keep track of the research. Use the references, obviously use the APA format, so if you need to pop it into a paper, you simply copy and paste it in. Keywords are useful, so you can search on it, your thoughts about the article. All these things should, for you, be building up your own personal database of information. And yes, it is a good idea to write this stuff down. So until next time, goodbye and good luck.